Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my 10 makeup purchases this year that I regret. Now, this is not the worst of the year. This is what I regret, okay? So there is a big difference. Some of these, maybe they're not horrible. I just regret buying them. Some of these are horrible. So there will be another video towards the end of the year where I'll be telling you guys about the worst makeup of the year, but these are my regrets. Like I said, some suck, but some were not that bad. It's just for me personally, I regret buying it because I just don't use it, or it just wasn't a smart purchase for myself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you guys are new here, I'm Christina. I love to talk about makeup, and I would love it if maybe you'd want to join the family by going ahead and hitting that big old subscribe button. Go ahead and let's get into it. I've got 10 items to go ahead and show you guys and talk to you guys about, and let's go ahead and let's start it right now. Okay, so number one is one that I actually sent back, and I really debated, should I send this back or not? And I finally ended up coming to the conclusion that it was pretty pricey for not wanting to use it, so I sent it back. So this was from Hourglass, and this was their new ambient holiday palette. I'll show you guys the image. I was so excited for this palette. I don't know, I just didn't read the description properly, and I didn't realize it was going to be a mostly glittery palette. I just in my mind assumed that Hourglass didn't like to put like glittery, shiny stuff inside of their palettes. I don't know, in my mind I thought that they like to do like more, you know, like veil kind of makeup. And when I got this one, it was very strobe-y. So like, I feel like every single one of the powders in there added some type of strobe. One of them had a little bit too much glitter in it. One of them just made me look like the Tin Man. I mean, I know that there's certain people who like certain looks, and this is just personally me. I hate seeing glitter on my face. I also don't like putting strobe-y products on my skin because my skin is a little bit textured, you know? I've got some fine lines, I've got some, you know, pores. I don't want anything that's really gonna accentuate any of that and bring it forward. You know, I kind of want it just like smoothed over and hidden. So when this product did the opposite of that, I automatically was like, no, no, no. And you know, I like the blushes in it. I thought the blushes were really pretty, but it wasn't worth keeping a palette for those blushes. In my opinion, I would rather just buy one of those smaller blushes that Hourglass sells and pick a color that I really love and just have one color. So yeah, I ended up hating this palette. Like, I literally don't like this palette. So like I said, some of these are just like regrets, and then some of them I really don't like. I don't like this palette. I was actually really disappointed in it, and a lot of you guys were disappointed too, because you guys were actually familiar with the shades that were coming in this palette, and this was the light version. There was a deeper one, which some people said was better because they didn't include some of the strobe shades. And actually, from the comments, I realized that a lot of people did not like the Infinity powder when it was released as a single, and then they were kind of shocked that they would even be putting it in this palette because it was not a very popular powder. I didn't like that powder. To me, it was like a highlight, like a very soft highlight. Whatever. Moral of the story, didn't look good on me, and I ended up sending it back, and yes, I regret buying that. I really do. And I didn't mention this, but this is not in any particular order, so I'm not like ranking this from worst to best. Actually, I don't want to tell you because some of these will be included in my worst of the year. But next one is Glowish from Huda Beauty. So this was her new line that she launched, and she launched this multi-dew skin tint, okay? So now this is not a bad product, but I regret buying this because this is supposed to have been a skin tint, kind of like to just put all over the skin. And yeah, it looks nice and dewy on the skin. But what I realized is, since I live in South Florida and I go outside a lot and I sweat a lot and it's humid, I always look sweaty. So then when you put a product like this on top of that, you look like you're like melting as you're walking around, and like it was just way too much dew. Like, I looked like somebody had like hosed me down and I was walking around. So like, it's not a good product for humid weather. And also, I feel like this is like that product that maybe I would use it as a mixer. So like, let's say I had a foundation that was a little drier and I wanted to mix it into that. That's what I would use this primarily for. So like, for example, the new Huda Beauty foundation, like the really full coverage one that released this year, that one is a little drying on my skin, so maybe I would put some of this into it just to give it like a little bit more of like that silky feel. But just like on its own, sure, it looks nice when you first put it on, but it just depends on your lifestyle and what you do. Maybe if you live somewhere with a drier climate that it doesn't really affect you and you're not like sweating all the time, maybe this would look good on you. But like, if you live somewhere like South Florida and you put this on, you will look like you're drenched in sweat. the whole day. I wore it once and I really liked the way it looked because it looked great on camera. It looked awesome inside my house. But as I started to wear it out in public and I started going places and like just using it, I started saying, oh my God, why do I look like I just like lifted weights? Like I look so wet. Okay, so this one is another product that I did not like that much this year, but I don't dislike the formula. So this is the Puff Paints from Natasha Denona. So she released these really cool liquid blushes, and what I do love about these liquid blushes is the formula. I actually think this has a really cool formula. This was actually the color I was most excited for, and it literally does not show up on my skin tone, but this formula is so cool because it blends really nicely, and it kind of just works so well. Like I love the formula. But I hate the colors that she released. She released one that is like super pink, and when I put it on, like it does blend out nice, but it's just too pinky looking. Then she released this one that I thought was gonna look so cool, and it was gonna give me like that tannish blush look, but it literally is the color of my skin, so I would put it on and it was like not even worth putting anything on because you couldn't see nothing. And then she released a really deep dark one, which I never picked up, and some people said that it was the best one, but I saw it on a few people and I just felt like it was too plum for my taste. I almost feel like the problem with this launch for me was the colors. I didn't like the colors that it was released in. She did release it in some very popular colors from her range, like that she had released blushes in before. But I feel like because this was like a creamy consistency that kind of like blended away really easily, maybe it was better to stick away from some of the colors she already had and developed colors that worked really good in this formula. I did not like the colors. So like I said, fan of the product, just not fan of the colors. All right, guys, let's talk about a skin tint that I was so excited for because I love the design of the bottle. So we have the Fenty Skin Ease, the Eavesdrop. Just kidding. The Fenty Eavesdrop Skin Tint. I was so excited for this. I thought it was such a cool bottle. Fenty has released some great products, so I was so on board with this. I couldn't wait to pick it up. I actually ordered it super fast, and this looks terrible on mature skin. I think that if you're younger and you have very nice, even skin that has some oils in it and you put this product on, you're probably gonna think it looks phenomenal. But as you get older and your texture starts to come out a little more, you get those fine lines, you also get dry, your skin gets a little drier, you have some areas that things could cling to, you start having a little bit more problems with the skin. And like for me on my forehead, you know, I've got some fine lines from moving my face so much, but you know, like I have these little issues. So I have things that I stare at when I put on any type of foundation or skin tint. And skin tints I usually look great in because skin tints are so nourishing on the skin, and they're almost like a veil, like a moisturizer with a little bit of a tint in it. So they usually look great on mature skin. I literally felt like I had put like the most drying mask that I possibly could own on my skin. I'm like, what is going on here? This has the most drying products in it. And for being a skin tint, it made me look older, which never happens with skin tints. Skin tints always, to me, make my skin look so much younger, like moisturized and very little makeup. And I don't know, usually sometimes with less makeup, my skin looks so much younger, except for this. This made me look so old. It gave me dry skin. It made my skin look like it was shriveling, and I hated the way this looked on my skin, and it looked really bad. And I got some suggestions of different ways to try it. I tried so many different ways to wear this, and I just ended up saying, you know what, this is a skin tint. This is not supposed to be so hard to put on. Skin tints, you're supposed to like put them on your fingers and throw them on your face. If it doesn't work that way, it's not worth it. So I got really mad at this product. I tried, and I got mad at it. So the next one is from my favorite brand in the world. And you know, I feel bad putting this product in like a regrets or a mistakes video because it's not like a bad product. This is, some people love this and there's parts of it that I do like. It's just when I think of like use per wear, like how much do I really want to grab this palette? It's hardly ever. the Zendo. Okay, so Zendo, I was so excited for Natasha Denona Zendo, guys. I thought that this was going to be so beautiful. I will say the color story was not what I was expecting. I really wanted it to look more like the actual mini Zendo, and this color story is just a little chaotic for me, and I think that's the problem. Whenever I want to use this, I, in my head, hate the way that reds and blues look together. Like, reds and blues, in my mind, create the worst looks. I hate reds. I see those reds next to the blues, it just like drives me mad, you know? So it might even just be the way that this is laid out. No, not even, because it's very hard to separate them, you know? So anytime I look at this, I have like a hard time. And it's like the palette itself, color story, is not appealing enough for me to want to grab and use. It's not that the shadows in here are bad. The shadows are super good. I do like the array of colors in here. It's just, there's other palettes that I like so much more color story wise. So this is like that palette that one day I would like to just like take all of the colors out of it and just mix it with another palette, because how it's set up in here, it just drives me a little crazy. And I know that sounds nuts, but it's just like, I don't know. Do you guys out there, when you look at like an eyeshadow palette and if it has colors next to it that you hate, does that like just like want you, like, don't you just feel like closing it up and grabbing one that you just look at it and you just go, ah, this is that palette. I don't not like it. It's just, I don't really use it. And for $65, like, I wish that I was grabbing this a lot more often or feeling like inclined to use it. Like, even the Circle Loco, that is a crazy color story, like, woof, like, I don't know what happened there. When I think of that palette, I think of some fun looks that I create, and when I open it, I get inspired to do something like very creative and fun. But this one doesn't do that to me. Every time I open it, I kind of go, ah. I do love the green. That's not like enough for $65, you know what I mean? All right, so since we're on eyeshadow palettes, I'm gonna talk about another one. So this one is doing like almost the same thing that Zendo does to me, and I really want to use this more, but I have an issue with it. It's the Wild West. So you guys know this is a very pretty palette. It's not an ugly palette, and it's not a bad formula at all. There's just something about this color story that I don't know. I was so excited for this one too. And I think the problem with this one is like it's very light and then very dark. So then it kind of like, I'm missing colors. Like, I almost feel like they tried to get very creative here and they were off by color tones, and the tones are not like perfect. I want to grab this and I don't. And then sometimes like I've tried like trying to use this like pretty silver color and it just doesn't work with a lot of the tones in here. So then I also have this blue, which I don't really love blue. So I have a hard time using this palette. Like, this is not a bad palette. This is a good formula. It's just, I don't know why I don't want to grab it. It's like one of those that I just don't want to use. I have other palettes that I really want to use. Like, I feel like, oh, I want to use that palette, and that is just not one of them. And I haven't used it that much, and I feel like I should have used it so much more. So that's why I kind of regret it. This is also another favorite, and I think some of you guys might go, Christina, what? You don't want to use a Pat McGrath? And it's true, I don't. So this one, focus on it, okay? And I really wanted to love this palette. I really did. So this one was called the Divine Rose Eternal Eden. I love the name. The name is so cool. But the thing with this palette, guys, is all the colors in here are so similar to each other. When you put them on the lid, it's literally like you put one color on. So it's almost like she gave us 4 colors, but this one and this one, they're so close in hue, even though this is a metallic, but it doesn't do any dimension. So you put on the matte and then you put on the metallic and they just like blend into each other. This one has pigment to it and it's bright, but it's so pink that your eyes look pink. And then this is a very pretty, very subtle little accent shade. I actually really like this shade, but you know, it's not like the most innovative shade either. So it's kind of like one of those palettes that every time I look at this, I think of like pink eyes or very bland looks, and that's not what I want to think of when I think of Pat McGrath. I want to think of, oh my goodness, the eye look I can create is insanity, because these little quads are super pricey. These things are expensive, so I want to think insanity when I think of her palette, and I don't with that one. I don't mind the quality, I don't mind the shades, I just want them with other shades. I don't want to use them with the shades she gave me. It's like another one like Zendo. I want to pop out all those shades and mix them with another palette and just be like, okay, now, you know, those are like palettes that you like want to take apart and put them in Z palettes and just like mix everything together and make them work better for you. Yeah. So moving on to some powder. So in the beginning of the year, Marc Jacobs released a cafe collection with the cutest theme ever and the most amazing packaging ever. So guys, this was such a cute idea. I was not really on board with these strips, but they didn't do a bad job. Like, they actually did work, but this, why is this so yellow? It is the most yellow like highlight for a light palette, and I think the medium or deeper one had like a light pink. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with that. This was like too yellow champagne. I never really want to use it. It's not ugly, it's just not what I want. And then the bronzer, this used to be one of my favorite bronzers, and now to me it's a little bit too cool tone. And I love my Charlotte Tilbury one so much because it gives me the bronze, and this one gives me more of a cool tone bronze, so I kind of don't use it. And the blush is my favorite thing in the entire palette. I love the blush, but the other two products now, one of them I never really liked. This one I used to love, and I don't love it as much. And then the blush is just beautiful. So it ended up not being a palette I ever grabbed because I don't really pull this out to use the blush, which I should, because I bought this. So I should probably just pull it out to use the blush and just say, well, I don't like the other two, but I thought I was going to really love that because I used to love that bronzer, and now I just don't like it as much anymore. So I don't know. It ended up not being a good use per wear, and I just don't use it. All right, so now let's talk about the KVD Good Apple Foundation Balm. I thought that this was the coolest product, okay? So I'm going to show you guys an image. I ended up returning it because I needed a different shade, and I was in the mindset that I was going to buy a different shade, but the thing kept selling out everywhere. So like nowhere had this product. So I took it back, and after I took it back, the lady said, well, go ahead and go check and see if you find your shade. And when I went to the aisle, I was like, there's only 2 shades. How was I going to find my shade? So there was absolutely no shade available. And, you know, with time, that want for the product kind of disappeared. But the reason that it's in here is because it is such a thick like layer, like to literally make yourself look porcelain. And my thought process behind wanting to repurchase it was like, you know, if I ever have that day that I want to look like a porcelain Barbie doll, this is the product. This is what I've got to use. But I realized that it breaks me out because I wore it a few times with the wrong shade, and the next week I started to get breakouts, and I said, oh, it was the balm. I don't know what it is about balms, but balms for some reason break out my skin. Happened also with the Kevyn Aucoin one. So I ended up just thinking, like, you know what, maybe I don't want to repurchase this. The time had gone by. I wasn't really like excited for it anymore. And then I started to realize I was breaking out, and I said, you know what, we're gonna pass on this product. And I'm actually happy that I did because, you know, it wasn't really worth it at the end. I have one last product to share with you guys, and this is another one that it's not like a bad formula. It's like a good formula, but it's from Rare Beauty. So you guys remember the Stay Vulnerable? This was the nearly neutral color. So these were created so that you can use them on your eyes, and I believe you can use them on their cheeks too, right? Now, here's the thing. It's like a really cool formula. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was really pretty. Here's the thing though, is like, it's like a very nice pinky color. I never use these type of products on the lid, and I should have known that. I think I just bought this for a review and to show you guys, knowing that this is just like not one of those products that I would ever really just want to use all the time. But you fool yourself. You fool yourself into thinking, you know, if somebody creates something that's just so good, my mind is going to change, and all of a sudden I'm going to become somebody who loves to put creams on the eyes. I mean, I guess it's possible that it could happen, and I thought that maybe this would kind of sway me into wanting to use cream on the lid, but that did not happen. This has been sitting in my drawers since I purchased it. I may have used it 2 or 3 times, and then I just like put it away and I stopped using it. So it's not bad. It was a good formula, and maybe if I used it consistently, it could even be in a favorites video because it's actually good. But since I first purchased it and I used it a couple of times and, you know, I liked it, I started putting it away and stopped using it, and it just kind of like faded off the map. So it wasn't a good purchase for me. It was just like, I don't know, it was just like one of those products that was cool to show you guys, but then at the end of the day, it just didn't fit into my routine. It's not something that I typically would use a lot because it fades into the background and I forget about it. So anyway, so those are the 10 products that I purchased this year that have been like makeup mistakes for me. I didn't tell you guys which ones are the worst of the year, but I think you guys can already kind of get like a little sneak peek of maybe some products that will be showing up again at my end of the year video. But anyways, I want to know from you guys, what product did you guys try this year that you absolutely hated? Leave that down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.